right?
Yeah. Answering some DMs here. Company business.
Always working. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show presented by PrizePicks. I'm Eric Lindquist. We're going to talk through this 11-gamer we have in front of us. It's the only show in town. It's Major League Baseball. No NBA in the streets tonight, which means I get to kind of focus all my attention on one sport. What a time to be alive. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. I get to break everything down here with my guy. That's T McBee up there. Terry McBride at DigitalB21 on the Twitters. My guy, how was your weekend?
It was great, man. My Rangers managed to win Game 7. That was the important part of it last night. But, I mean, what a blast of a sports weekend. Just a bunch of Game 7s. I think I watched 4 or 5 Game 7s over the course of the weekend. Had some fun baseball series, obviously. I was on a ton of shows doing content. It's a great kind of sports weekend for me. So, yeah, I'm doing good. How about you?
Look at that. Oh, yeah, it was great. I mean, I just needed the Mavs to win. I basically had a plus 350 and a plus 1100 money line ticket because I bet them down 0-1, down 0-2. So it was great when conviction comes through. The CP point fraud. I love the point fraud. Whoever came up with that, I hadn't heard that one before. That one was circulating Twitter. It brought a chuckle to me. I enjoyed it. But
I don't know if I could fully back it because I don't really believe it. Like he is.
I know he's good.
Damn good. Like,
but here's the thing. Also,
but he got exposed.
There's certain guys that act like they're the best player in the league when they are a top 15 complimentary piece. Like, how do you win a title with Chris Paul in 2022, the way basketball's played?
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Not a three-point shooter, mid-range specialist, can't guard his position. I don't know. It feels like Chris Paul 10 years ago could be the best player on a team and possibly have them win, but didn't really get it through. Lost to Houston, in pretty horrifying fashion back in the day with that Clippers team that could have ran the table. But yeah, I don't know. He's just not. He's not all that in a bag of potato chips, is what we're getting at. I don't know.
So do you think? I mean, we're pushing toward the end of the line here. Do you think he ends up as a complimentary piece? You know, the backup point guard picking up a title with one of these super teams somewhere along the way at any point? Or do you think he's just going to run out the string?
I don't know. It's hard. I mean, in OKC, he was able to revamp 2 other guards around him when you had Shea, when they had Dennis Schroeder, and they were able to have the best backcourt in the NBA. They had to go to a bubble. He was there for a year. It was kind of a weird spot, but he was able to revamp a lot of guys around him. I think he needs, Devin Booker was the best player on the team. It's not like he was the best player on his team throughout the entire season. He was very, very good, but he was not a complimentary piece, but he was the 1B to Devin Booker. So we'll see if I think the window's closed on them. I don't know how you give 8 and a max after what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a big question mark for them in terms of the contract, in terms of a lot of different things. He's a player I've never really, I mean, I know we're here to talk baseball, but I've never really believed in him on the basketball court. He's good, but he's not that next level good, that you really need from that kind of.
He's not Luka Doncic, who got drafted
certainly not
after him.
Definitely not. That was
all
a
right
draft too that year. Everybody knew Luka was the best player in that draft.
That's true. Well, let's talk baseball. Yesterday, our boy Hunter Green came to fruition. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. You know what else? He didn't beat Tariq Skubal, and that made me very upset. But
you know what? Pissed me off more about that though? The green part was right. Like the green play was still the better play, even if you knew in advance what those 2 guys were going to score. The thing that didn't come through was any of the expensive high-end stacks, like Yankees, Toronto, et cetera, et cetera. Like a bunch of those failed. The weird hitters from the Astros came through, like Chas McCormick and Yuli Gurriel. But a lot of the other guys only, put up 6, 9, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really the failure of a lot of the premium stacks that cost the Hunter Green shares, where the Skubal lineups all came through with the cheapo stacks. So it kind of just worked out weird.
Yeah, if you did like a full one-off lineup of like Jose Ramirez, Byron Buxton, if you just like went to the expensive Francisco Lindor, the most expensive hitters at every position hit home runs. But yet I didn't play like the Hunter Green, Tariq Skubal route enough. I had like maybe 5% overlap.
Night, the winning lineup in the main tournament on FanDuel did exactly that. He had Herman Marquez, the cheapo pitcher, and then he had the most expensive one-off he could have gotten to. He had a star one-off at every position. He had 2 Phillies, star one-off at every position, hit every single one of them. It was wild. Hell of a lineup.
Well, it was nice to see our boy Hunter Green finally put it together at the major league level because he's going to be so special. I'm in love with this human being. I played him in Coors. I'm going to keep playing him everywhere. I'm going to for sure play him. He was my highest owned pitcher against the Pirates yesterday, and it's sad that he couldn't beat Skubal. I was half the field on Skubal, and he's my other guy.
I was laughing on the show with Eitan. He was asking me, he was trying to nail down like how much of them you're going to have. He's like 10%. I was like, no, I'm going to have way more than that. He's like, how much you going to have? I'm like, way too much. He's like 20%. I said, all right, I'm going to try and undercut 20%. I was on the show. I ended up like 40 some odd percent because I was just on the show. I can only cut it down so much. I usually don't go that heavy on a pitcher, but I just loved the value we were getting with him, but didn't come through in the lineup side of things. Unfortunately, the stacks.
I got 6th on DK, but I barely made money. It was hilarious, but I had 48% green, which was good. So I was happy to be on the right side of that one, and I undercut Skubal, who's usually my boy, but I don't know how you play a 44% guy in that spot who has shown what he's shown, but I love the strikeout stuff. No doubt about it. Let's get to today's slate, though. Wanted to recap the weekend in the basketball streets, in the MLB streets. We could talk hockey. Congratulations to your Rangers. Well done. Sporting the hat. Good luck in the next round. Kings couldn't quite get it done. My adopted team out here, nor could the Wild, my actual team back home. Sad times. But let's get into this. Smash the like button as we get going.
Mike's looking Philly. What's the name? Gritty to the camera.
Oh God, Gritty.
That's so weird.
Just I'm not even looking. New York.
You want to
Yankees,
adopt a fun hockey team? Jump into that Flames Edmonton series.
See, that's going to be a lot of fun. Like that, I am looking forward to. Maybe if Edmonton can get anything out of Drysdale, but you know what?
We've already talked 3 sports. Maybe if we want to
conversation
one more time.
Yeah, if we want to do some PGA, we can talk a little bit about that PGA Championship weekend. I'll be on live before. Well, no, I won't be on live before lock. I'll be on the strategy show tomorrow with my boy Ben. But let's get into it. Your Yankees, 4.8 implied runs. Baltimore Orioles, 3.2. In the friendly confines of Camden Yards now, might be the right way of saying it. Luis Severino, 25.0% K percentage here so far. He's a guy that I think we got to have some interest in here on this slate. What do you see going up against the Orioles, which should provide him some pretty good K upside?
See a whole hell of a lot of ownership to start with. That's the thing that really leaps out to me because the first thing you actually notice is the low price. 8,100 on FanDuel, 8,800 on DK. For a guy with his strikeout acumen, for his ability, that's pretty low. He's kind of coming on. He's gone upward in his strikeouts, upward in his pitch counts. So he's basically, back to form, 3.36 xFIP. You mentioned the 25% strikeouts. Still, it's doing well with the hard contact, 38.6%, 12.1% swinging strikes. Still a few too many guys on base is what I was struggling to get out there. 1.33 whip, 26.2% swinging strikes. You'd like to see him in the zone a little bit more. But against this Orioles team, I think he stands a very nice chance of putting up a big start here. No question about it. The Orioles have been struggling against both hands this year. So far, they're against righties, 22.5% strikeout rate puts them 17th. They're 2% worse than average creating runs. They're 27th in baseball with a 1.76% home run rate. So there's not a ton of threat. There's a fair amount of strikeouts in there. And I think he's a pitcher who's more than capable of finding a few bonus strikeouts in that lineup. So outside of everything but the 50% popularity on DK, 40% on FanDuel, I really like Severino and I like the spot for him. I'll probably be under the field on both sites on that. Well,
let's talk Kyle Bradish on the other side because my goodness, he put it together last time out. Finally, 90 pitches, 35.4 DraftKings points, 11 strikeouts. And this is more indicative. There are a lot of scouts that were kind of saying that Kyle Bradish has some serious stuff. And I didn't really see it to start off in his first 2 outings. Well, you definitely saw it in the box score at least. I don't know if this is going to be something that I want to go crazy with. 25% K percentage now in 3 starts at the major league level. There isn't a whole lot of mine out, but I will say I'm willing to find out if he's not going to be crazy popular. And it looks like right now, 4.5% on DK, 5,800 provides a lot of utility for you when you're talking about the bats. He's the 3rd in terms of value pitcher. And I'm not playing Wade Miley today. I can tell you that much. So just take him off the board for me. Kyle Bradish might be somebody I roster quite a bit. What do you plan to do with him on the blue site?
Tell you what, I'm all about these value pitchers in general. I do think he's a much better DK play today, though. 5,800 on DK, that can get you something at that 4 and change ownership. On the FanDuel slate, I think there are enough options from similar kind of territories that I probably don't need him for 7,700. he could come out and have a decent game, could find some strikeouts against these Yankees. There are definitely pockets of heavy strikeouts, but as a team, the active roster, 21.6% strikeout rate, is 13th in baseball. So they're middle of the league against right-handed pitching, and they've got plenty of power. 122 WRC plus, creating runs 22% better than average, a 3.67% home run rate against righties. So there's plenty of reason to doubt Kyle Bradish in his fourth major league start here. So I'm probably going to lean into the Yankees side of things again, at least in limited shares. I do think he's good. I do think there's going to be talent there in the future. And that value price on DK is worth taking some shots at, just because nobody's going to be doing it from that 5,000 tier. So you can go there. But on FanDuel, I'll probably avoid it. Like, I'd just rather, if I'm doing that, I'd just rather find the 400 and pay for Severino on the other side of this one. And just, even if it's chalky, right? I don't think that's the right price for Kyle Bradish in this matchup.
Yeah, on DK, I'm definitely going to be playing over the field. That's the right price. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. If he's going to be 4.5%, and I'm probably going to be over on Yankee stacks, because that seems to be something that's going to be profitable long-term in life. You just keep playing them. They're flat leverage. You just play them. They're 1 through 9 playable. You saw Hicks get involved in the 9-hole last night. You saw, or yesterday afternoon, Aaron Judge, everybody in this lineup against righties for the season too. I like to think of them generally as lefty killers, but that's really not the case over the course of this season. They are 4th in baseball, WRC plus 121 against righties. You're looking at a nice of 184, just ridiculous type numbers. Sorry, 166. It was Houston above them, but really good numbers here for the Yankees. Flat leverage. What's not to like?
I mean, everything top to bottom, you can roster this team, like you said. If you want to skip over Jose Trevino or Higashioka, if he's the catcher today, that's fine. Trevino, not much of a bat. Higgy struggling ridiculously. Everybody else in the lineup, I don't love Isaiah Kiner Falefa for DFS purposes. I think he's a good
He's infielder. Been so much better, though. Like, he's very unenthusiastic, doesn't really hit the ball, but the nice thing is you're getting him in the 7-hole. Look at who you want to talk about being protected in a lineup. As long as he's batting 7th, there's really nothing not to say he won't have opportunities for driving in runs.
Absolutely. Yeah. He gets up a lot of the time with guys on base, has gets involved in the offense. So he's a correlation piece for sure. $2,500 multi-position guy on FanDuel. You can definitely use that. He led the league in singles last year. He was the answer to all the guys in the upper deck who yell about Joey Gallo and want people who can just get base hits. That's why the Yankees went out and got him as a placeholder for a year until Volpe's ready next year. So he's fine. You can roster him. He's cheap. Put him into the back end of stacks. I don't mind it, but it's really all about the top 6 hitters here: LeMahieu, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Torres, Gallo. That's a pretty big murderer's row. And then you can bolt Aaron Hicks on from the wraparound spot in the 9 spot. Great on base guy. Even though he's struggling a little bit with the power, the hit tool, he's still 358 on base. So his correlated scoring is right there. And if he's going to be wrapping around to that DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge part of the lineup, absolutely you can add him.
I have no interest in Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. If a stack trickled in around the edges just because they're so damn cheap, especially on FanDuel, the entire bottom of the lineup is under 2,300 or below. That said, the entire back of the lineup is terrible. You really want to be about the first part here. If Austin Hayes was in the lineup, it would be a little bit better. We'll see what version of it comes out, but it's definitely not a target.
Yeah, if it was Baltimore, if it was Camden last year, sure.
Yeah.
Came to this year.
Yeah. No, Park just plays completely differently this year.
Just not going to do it. Seattle Mariners 3.8, Toronto Blue Jays 4.7 on this one. Chris Flexen on the mound going up against Yusei Kikuchi. I think Kikuchi's going to have a lot of conversation points, but first, anything you're noticing from Flexen that might be semi-appealing? Because I got nothing for you.
Yeah, I don't think there's very much there. 15.7% strikeout rate, a 4.53 xFIP, reasonably fair number of guys on base and opportunities, plenty of hard hit. I would much more rather roster the Blue Jays here. If you're taking those weird $5,000 shots on DK and you wanted to throw 1 or 2 shares of Chris Flexen here, nobody else is going to be doing it. It's not the craziest thing in a year where every pitcher is coming up equal and every pitcher is capable of doing, putting up the same kind of performance. So I wouldn't say no to a couple $5,500 shares. I'll probably have no $7,000 shares on FanDuel.
Yeah. Looking at Kikuchi though, I think this is where it gets interesting. I like Bradish 5,800, but not somebody I'm going to play like 30% or 40%, like 100 green when he's down there at 4 or 5%. I think that the mid-range of pitcher is probably going to be where I live a lot on DK. That 7K range looks pretty under-owned relative, specifically Whitlock, which I'm excited to get your take on. But on FanDuel, Kikuchi's down to 7,500. That's starting to be in the realm of playable here. A little bit more appealing than going to like a John Gray, who's much more popular, I think. But Kikuchi going up against this Mariners offense that has really been sluggish here of late, yet gets to lefties at a pretty good clip, 112 WRC plus. I can kind of make a case for both sides of this one. Do you prefer Kikuchi or do you prefer Seattle stacks?
I definitely would prefer the Seattle side of this. Kikuchi's a pitcher I really don't get to all that often. I really don't believe that much. The strikeout rate, I do think the improved strikeouts are fairly real, right? I think he's going to be sitting in that 23, 24% range. He was 24.5% last year over 157 innings. But what I think is just super targetable with bats most of the time, and the side that I'd always rather be taking, is his contact profile. 47% hard hit with an 11% barrel, 91.9 mile an hour average exit velo last year. This year, 50% hard hit, 14.3% barrel rate, 92.5 mile an hour average exit velo. He is good at keeping the ball down. The average launch angle is only 5.1 degrees this year. But with guys who know how to hit home runs, guys who know how to elevate the ball on the other side, I'm willing to take some shots against him here. There's a good amount of righty power on the other side in this one. They, like you said, have been good against lefties this year so far. Seattle's active roster, 20.8% strikeout rate is 11th in baseball. 119 WRC plus is 7th in baseball. A 3.23% home run rate is 10th. A 173 ISO is 7th. That's all against lefty pitching. That's all, top end marks as far as this year goes. So I'm willing to take out some shares of Mariners. They're not getting that much popularity, and you're doing it. It's one of those double dip leverage situations on DK. If you do that, they're low owned and he is fairly highly owned at that 6,300 price. I wouldn't say you're making a mistake by rostering some shares of him at 6,300 on DK. You can take it up to 15, 20%, but I'd be looking to get under the field on him. It's just a pitcher I don't really trust.
Yeah, I think Ty France. I think looking at even Winker from the left side, whatever, but Julio Rodriguez and Henio Suarez, those two guys are like automatic locks if I'm going to be stacking up against Kikuchi here in that lineup. Yeah, Ty France, the nice thing about him, really low strikeout rate, really low walk rate. So he kind of mirrors Yuli Gurriel, who I know we both love to roster above the field simply because, when he gets to the plate, it's 14, it's 7, or it's 0, in DraftKings scoring. For you, it's 18.7, 9, or 0. Like you're not just accumulating those 3 points over and over and over again, which again has utility on some slates. Not in 2022 with multiple games on the board. You kind of need every position to be smashing. So I love rostering guys like that. So France goes into the mix. Anything else from Seattle you want to touch on?
JP Crawford, I would throw into that mix, and Adam Frazier up top as well. I think they're both interesting enough hitters. Frazier might not be up top lefty here, but I would say JP Crawford's going to be in the lineup wherever he is, and he's just playing really well so far this year. Catch the hot streak while it still lasts. Luis Torrens, if you need a catcher, plenty of power in that righty bat. He'll be sleeping toward the back of the lineup with nobody on him. So I think there's some interesting bats. Like even if you want to one-off a cheap catcher from this lineup, I think that's doable here against this lefty who just gives him so much premium contact. You might get 4 ground balls or 3 ground balls and a strikeout, or, actually with Torrens, it's probably 3 strikeouts and a ground ball, but you might pick up that sneaky home run. So I think it's worth taking some shots on Mariners.
Yeah, with Tom Murphy on the IL, I don't really have a ton of Torrens, Cal, Raleigh type interest. I'm sure I'll get a little bit because I'll be stacking up Seattle. I think I'm with you where I prefer the Seattle side. Yeah. Kikuchi's pretty darn popular. I understand why he's popular. This is a Seattle team that's been sluggish, but if you were to tell me, face a lefty or face a righty with this lineup, obviously against lefties, I think they're going to be much more effective long-term. As far as Toronto goes, I think going up against Flexen, pretty appealing spot. So you're going to see them garner some attention here. For Toronto, what's always nice is they have more expensive bats on the front end, and then you have some types of value, so you can kind of piece together the stack. There's general positive leverage because you just have like Springer, Teoscar Hernandez, and of course, Vlad Guerrero that end up being the popular bats. But I think this team's going pretty slept on considering they have positive leverage on today's slate with a 4.7 implied run total. What do you see out of Toronto that sticks out to you?
Yeah, they're one of those teams that I'm just always looking to get to. I was a little overweight to them yesterday in conjunction with a lot of my green shares. Didn't quite work out. Happy to go right back to the well against the guy who gives up a ton of contact, gives up a 15.7% strikeout rate. That means the ball's in play a lot. He's got a 1.26 whip with a 7.1% walk rate. So he's putting a fair amount of guys on base, and he gives up a ton of premium contact, 45.4% hard hit, 10.2% barrel rate, 15.4 degree average launch angle. So the ball's actually in the air with this pitcher. I think it's a great spot to target some of that power. Vladdy Guerrero, Teoscar Hernandez, Lourdes Gurriel, Matt Chapman, certainly Bo Bichette and George Springer up at the top of the lineup. I don't want to leave out there. All those guys outside of Vladdy and Teoscar on the FanDuel slate, everybody's below 10%. Everybody in the lineup is around 6% or below on DK. They're totally worth getting to. And I would argue that they're cheap. Vladdy's 5,800. That's the right price for Vladdy, maybe 6,000. Bo Bichette, 5,000. Everybody else in that lineup below 5,000. George Springer's a $5,000 DK player. Teoscar is probably a $5,000 DK player. So they're a little cheap. Teoscar on FanDuel, 2,900. Yes, please. Yeah, I can definitely stack up some Blue Jays here.
All right. Well, anything else from this game for you?
Nothing specific. I mean, I could talk about more of these Blue Jays hitters if you want to keep going.
No, we can keep it going. Houston Astros at Boston Red Sox. This is the one I really want to ask you about. Jake Odorizzi, Garrett Whitlock matching up against each other in this one. I spent a lot of time looking at Garrett Whitlock this morning because I just kind of felt like he was going really underappreciated in our top pitchers tool. 0.5% ownership, more underappreciated by the field than our top pitchers tool. We're a positive 4.3% leverage going his direction. Against righties, what do you think the Houston Astros strikeout rate is for the season? 1 through 30. Where do you think they rank?
I'm not looking at it. I have it in the other window. I'm going to say second or third.
17th, just meaning that they're middle of the road. Just saying that Houston traditionally has been a team that you think about having a really, really low strikeout rate. And the fact that, what was that?
It was timeout. I have them surprisingly low, but I have them with a 20% strikeout rate against righties which ranks 7th.
22.1% is what I have right here.
Are you using the active roster tab or
I'm using the active, on FanGraphs. Yeah.
I updated this morning. I got 20%.
Oh, I have 22.1.
That's odd.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's a big difference.
Take a look at that. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying they're middle through 17
yesterday against righties.
I don't know. Chas McCormick in the lineup projected 21.2% K percentage. Pena, Maldonado, 22.7 and 33%. Jose Siri, that might be the guy that's sneaking in on me. 33.3% K percentage. Because you had Kyle Tucker out of the lineup yesterday. So that might be what I have on my end. But Jose Siri added in that side of it. He batted 7th yesterday. I will remove him. There you go. 20%, whatever. 2%. 20%. Yeah, it's a difference. It's a difference for sure. But I've been spending a lot of time.
I just want to catch that real quick. Are you pulling the full active roster and then compiling all the different players and not using the team tab?
I take the specific players. I upload them from FanGraphs into my sheet. And then I rerun everything and I just group it by K percentage with the 9 cumulative batters.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. I'm just using the team stats tabs on graphs and I put it into my dashboard here for the shows. And my model has all that stuff in the background. But, for this, I just actually grab it off the team tab board. That's interesting. I didn't know you did it that way.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a good practice to get into. Whatever your process is, you just want something that can be repeatable that, like for me, I've done it this way for like 7 years. Yeah. So I don't have to think about it anymore. It doesn't feel like work. You just kind of go through the motions.
Memory, yeah. Every year I open my sheet and I'm like, I have no idea how to work this. And then I just start clicking around and everything just comes back to me. And it's like, oh yeah, all right. Yeah. That's what
I had Siri in instead of Kyle Tucker. And then you take him out, you replace the two, you're at 20.2. So there you go. Well done. There we go. Everybody really loved that segment. But Garrett Whitlock, I'm going to have a lot more than 0.5% of Garrett Whitlock at 7,600, 82 pitches against Atlanta. This is a purely DraftKings play for me. I don't think I could really roster any on FanDuel where you're talking about pretty much needing the bonus. And there's a lot of guys I think that are more inclined to get it to you. But Whitlock is a very good real life pitcher so far in his big league career. How do you feel about Garrett Whitlock in this spot against a tough Houston team?
Yeah, it's really more about the matchup that's probably going to keep me mostly away from him on FanDuel. 8,000, I think the price is great. I think that since there's nobody on him, I'll maybe take some shares just based on strikeout acumen alone. 34.7% this year. You can't ignore that even against this team. There are some strikeouts hiding here, like we just discovered with some of these guys. Martin Maldonado certainly down toward the bottom of the lineup. Chas McCormick, Jeremy Pena in the 20s. So he can find some strikeouts here. My concern is around the bonus, like you said on FanDuel. I don't think he gets to that quality start bonus. I think if he gets through 5 here, they're leading. I think the Sox are going to thank him for his day and put him on the bench. Like, I don't think they're going to put him out there for that 6th inning just because he hasn't thrown more than 90 pitches through the season. He's not, he's one of those hybrid arms. He's kind of precious to them. One of the premium pitchers. I think he will get stretched out to that point as the season goes along, but I don't think he's there yet. And I think against this lineup, they're not going to want to run him back out there for that 3rd time through, or as little of that as they can. So that would be my concern there. At 7,600 on DK, I think you can definitely take those shots because you don't need that quality start. He's only 3.2%. That's too cheap for him. I don't love it to come through, but you don't need it to come through that many times. So I think you can take that shot, get over the field on it. But definitely I would load up on some Astros stacks on the other side of it, just because they're elite against both hands. In addition to the strikeout rate, 24% better than average creating runs, 3.75% home run rate, and a 185 ISO against righties this year. So they're a lethal team against anybody. I would probably both sides that pretty strongly.
Yep, I'm with it. Kyle Tucker, Jordan Alvarez, I'm going to have tons of those two specifically. I pretty much do every single slate. It has gone better than not over the course of the last year, 2 years. So do it. That's kind of the way I look at it. Now, other side of this one, though, Jake Odorizzi, I really don't have a ton of interest. He's not a guy that, going back to his Minnesota days and everywhere that he's been in the league, he's been everywhere. Johnny Cash style. He's been everywhere. I don't really feel like Jake Odorizzi is somebody I want to roster, but just comes down to how popular Boston's going to be. And it looks like a little bit too popular, just slightly. It's a large slate. And if it ain't Coors, it ain't going to be popular. How do you feel about Boston and Jake Odorizzi here?
That's going to walk me into Boston bats here. I know Odorizzi's seen some success this year. I know I've seen him in the top of in some good lineups, but 15.6% strikeout rate, 10.1% walk rate, 4.91 xFIP. It's certainly not translating through to the real life baseball stats. The contact has been very good, 3.8% barrel rate inside his 31.3% hard hit. He's a fly ball pitcher. He's going up against a home run hitting team that has been struggling, but I'm much more inclined to roster Red Sox bats here. I don't think I've ever won with Jake Odorizzi, even when he was good. And this certainly isn't that version of that pitcher. And he's in the 8,000s on both sites. I think there's a lot of reasons to not roster Jake Odorizzi tonight.
Yeah, and he's not going to be missing bats, which, generally against Boston, you can do with Story, Dahlbeck, JD Martinez, Jackie Bradley Jr., all these guys north of a 23% strikeout rate. So, yikes, could be in a lot of trouble here. Fly ball pitcher in Fenway here. Feel as though this is going to be a spot where you can definitely get to some Boston bats. They're a little bit popular across the industry compared to their chances of being a top stack. But as I said before, if it ain't Coors, it's not popular. So we're going to be all right getting to some of those bats. Anybody specific shout out from the Boston side?
I mean, if anybody can figure out a way to strike out 3 or 4 times against Jake Odorizzi, it's my guy, Bobby Dahlbeck, but you kind of love his opportunity for a home run. That said, if you're picking one player from this lineup, it's probably Rafael Devers, the big lefty, going up against Jake Odorizzi here. So like that opportunity, nice little home run marker around Rafi Devers, probably a little cheap on FanDuel, 3,900, but pulling a ton of ownership, 10%. That's playable on DK.
I will not be doing a 3 a.m. Pacific time strategy show talking through my MLB process. Nobody got time for that. I know, because Josh Engelman has his NBA process show that goes live at 6 a.m. Eastern time. That's 3 a.m. my time.
Yeah, maybe a little early. I could go live at 3 a.m. though. That wouldn't crush me. That fits into my schedule oddly well. I was actually thinking about that at one point. I was like, would there be a value in like the lineup card show where we're just putting together lineups, putting like kind of what Josh does with the process? And I'm not up that early. That's my window. Up at 5:30. I'll go to bed around 4, sleep till around like 7:38, and then get up and start this stuff.
Yeah, your dog is not 6 months old, is what we've learned. Yeah.
No. This is the opposite of that.
Get access to all the great tools and content here at Awesemo. Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass, $18.95 for the weekly pass, $39.95 I think for the monthly. Check those out if you want just the best tools in the industry, which I have a feeling most of you do. Top stacks, top pitchers, lineup builders, so much more stuff here on the MLB side. $18.95 for the weekly pass. So stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. We're also giving you MLB player rankings completely free today. Click on those, like them, enjoy them. Let's go. Also hit that like button. That'd be very helpful for us. Nice to see everybody hanging out here early in the mornings, chatting up the baseball slate. Let's keep it on moving. St. Louis Cardinals, 3.9 implied runs against the New York Mets, 4.1. Miles Mikolas, been a good real-life pitcher again here. Kind of turning a corner, but strikeout rates coming down. Also, did you see his price on FanDuel today?
I did. Astronomical.
I LOL'd when I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this year's just...
On what planet should Miles Mikolas be 10K?
Not this one. Definitely the planet where he knows how to strike out more people, where gravity's weird or something, maybe, but certainly not this one.
Freddie Peralta is like $1,500 too cheap for this slate, and Miles Mikolas is $1,500 too expensive. Is that the right way of looking at it?
I would argue that that's probably not enough. It's like 2,000 or 3,000 too expensive. I don't think anything of this pitcher, and for DFS, he's fine for real life, but for DFS, I do not think he's a $7,500 FanDuel pitcher. He's not a $10,000 FanDuel pitcher.
SW, Eric hates us, or he'll do a 3:30 a.m. process show. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I hate you. And that's what we just learned. I don't hate you. You're lovely.
You're
people.
Loathing coming out of your eyes every time you go.
I'm just so tired already. Just tired already. And allergies, man. Allergies just kicking our ass today.
Kicking my ass this morning too.
All right. Well, I'm with you. I don't really think Mikolas at 9,800 is going to fall into more than any kind of lineups where I'm like, hey, positive leverage. I want to stack up Coors or something of that nature. I don't really see myself playing a share.
Yeah, I don't really see any need to. And it's not like he's going up against a bad team. He's going up against the Mets, who are pretty damn good. 17.9% strikeout rate against a nothing strikeout pitcher. That's best in baseball for their active roster. 122 WRC plus against righties. That's fourth in baseball. The power's been out a little bit, but I mean, there are plenty of home run hitters in that lineup. I am not going to roster Miles Mikolas against them. If he burns me, he burns me.
Yeah, I was in second in the showdown. Yeah, Aaron D, hilarious slow pitch innings by San Francisco and St. Louis. Fun times. I was in second in FanDuel. I played like 10 lineups in the, whatever, the 20K to first thing. Because I was like, I'm going to watch that game back and forth before game 5 starts or before game 7 starts for the Mavs game and whatever else. And then ended up watching more of the baseball game at the end. The Luis Gonzalez and Joey Bart homers off of Albert Pujols were the most costly things that I could possibly remember.
I completely
missed like a $9,800 swing.
Oh my God. I completely missed that. I had my head in the Ranger game in the evening and was out of the baseball slate. So I didn't have any lineups in, but that sounds frustrating.
It was not great, Terry McBride. It was not great. Even though Jock ended up being the guy, I mean, he had already hit a homer earlier in the game. He ended up in the winning ones, but went from second all the way to like, I don't know, 80th, and that's not going to get it done in DFS in the year 2022. Like whatever.
I was in on Friday night. I was in first in the main FanDuel tournament up until like the late part of the night, and then I got beat by a Michael A. Taylor walk, and then I got passed again by a Jonathan Camargo single. And then the Philly.
Oh, that's way worse. That's not like a 1 game sample size with Pujols pitching. Like once Pujols went in the game pitching, I knew I was dead. Like I knew something bad was about to happen. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So play Mikolas on FanDuel. No, he's 10-2. I can't imagine you're going to land on Miles Mikolas in this spot against the Mets.
No, I wouldn't. It's just not at that price. Like even if he goes out and has a good game here at that price, say he goes out, puts up a quality start, strikes out, 2 or 3 of these Mets, gives you 38, 42 FanDuel points. I can find something akin to that or make up the difference between that performance and somebody else's cheaper performance with a bat that buys me. If I go to an $8,000 pitcher here, like I'd so much rather just dump those shares into $8,100 Luis Severino. Right.
Who looks oddly similar to Miles Mikolas in terms of numbers? Who? Trevor Williams on the other side of this one. He's not going to pitch nearly as far. So obviously no utility for FanDuel, probably not for DK either. But we're talking about a guy who also doesn't walk guys, low walk rate like Miles Mikolas, has about identical K percentage, 17.3% compared to 18.7%. They both limit hard contact. I mean, the Cardinals have been so unbelievable this season against lefties, but this is a righty on the mound. I probably don't want to be going nuts with any Cardinals bats, even though I know you have been the guy beating the drum for the top of this Cardinals order. They removed Paul DeYoung. That's one dead lineup spot out of your lineups if you're trying to stack them up. But what sticks out to you going up against Trevor Williams from the St. Louis side?
Yeah, you mentioned, he doesn't really strike out many. Last year, he was a little bit better for the strikeouts, 22.2% over 91 innings, 15 starts, but that's still not anything to fear. And this Cards team, yeah, they're much better against lefties, but there are some very capable veteran hitters here who can definitely get to this righty. So I'm not worried at all about throwing Cardinals bats at Trevor Williams here. And if nothing else, they're going to put the ball in play. 17.9% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching so far this year is best in baseball. A 108 WRC plus is 13th. The power's been out, 23rd ranked, 2.16% home run rate. Against lefties, they're best in baseball with a 4.56% home run rate. It illustrates the difference in how they've been connecting. But yeah, Tommy Edman, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Juan Yepez, Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill. Give me that top end. I can take some shares of Harrison Bader in the 8 spot or wherever he's hitting. I don't need much Yadi Molina, but you can roster him if you're playing on DK where you need a catcher. I do like going to this lineup, and they're very affordable and they're low owned. Everybody on FanDuel under 4,000, only Nolan Arenado over 5,000 on DK. So definitely you can load up some shares on Trevor Williams here. I'll be rostering bats on both sides of this one. I don't know that I'll have a share of either pitcher.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, that saves us time too. We can move on.
There you go.
Look at you. You're incredible. Pittsburgh Pirates, 3.8 implied run total. I wish I didn't have to go to the gym. I really don't want to. Chicago Cubs, 4.7 on the other side of this one. Bryce Wilson, Wade Miley. What was that?
They're not going to like come looking for you and kick down your door and drag you to the gym. Like,
no, but you have to give them $20. It's $20 if you don't show up.
Don't go win $20 with all this great baseball knowledge we're talking about here, and then you break even.
Oh, Bryce Wilson. I don't really know what to say about pitching in this one. It's not very good.
What are we talking about? The Pirates?
Wade Miley, 5.6% K percentage. Who does he think he is? The left-handed Zach Greinke? What is happening?
That's actually probably exactly who he is, right?
Yeah, but Zach Greinke with a whip of 3.33, a little different there, probably.
6.3% swinging strike rate.
Yeesh. I'm going to have an irrational amount of Pittsburgh, probably.
Now, let me tell you where Wade Miley's projecting in my model.
He's got to be projecting up there against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's
one start. I mean, that's the thing. That's everything you're seeing on the page there regarding him. It's a one game sample size. And yeah, it's not anything substantial that I'm worried about, but
yeah, he's not going to walk 27.8% of hitters for the rest of the year.
He's not? Oh, okay.
Might be a short year if he does.
Yeah. Well, for a career, 8.7% walk rate, 18.4% K percentage. That's kind of where we're looking at. Last year, 4.12 expected ERA. So was pretty serviceable. He's always kept the barrel percentage down there a little bit, but for the most part, I just don't like him as a pitcher. I feel like I've stacked up against him for years and years and years. I can't remember a time I won something stacking up against him, but alas, I don't want to roster him. He's up on your model though, isn't he?
He's projecting weird. We got away with it. And the reason I was really excited about the Hunter Green play yesterday, and I was banging the drum for it on shows, and I was DMing EMAC about it and everything, and I played so much of it, was because he's like an extremely good strikeout pitcher with a ridiculous fastball. And he was going up against this weak ass lineup that the Pirates roll out there. And that looked really, really good. And it came through in my model. He was like my highest projected pitcher yesterday. Wade Miley coming through my model against that same lineup doesn't fill me with the same good feelings. Am I going to take some shots on it? 5,700 on FanDuel and 4,400 on DK. I might do it on FanDuel at 4,400 on DK. He's 21% owned. He's negatively leveraged. There's a lot of people going to be taking that shot. I think you could probably do yourself a favor and avoid doing that on DK because it's probably not going to work. If you want to roll the dice a little bit, like go under the field on that play if you're going to make the discount play on DK. If you're going to do it on FanDuel, I'll see you at the bottom of the standings, but I'll probably have a few of them. I don't like it. I don't think it's going to work. Nowhere near the enthusiasm like I was with Hunter Green, but I've kind of just accepted the fact that I have to trust my model sometimes and ride with it even on stupid shit like this. Because when it does get it right, there's nobody else there. So with very, very knowing, eyes wide open, knowing that we're going to the bottom of the standings with all those lineups, I might throw a couple in.
With our eyes wide open. Oh, man. Shout out Creed. Bryce Wilson, going to be the long reliever here. He's had some good outings. He's had some bad outings. 6,700, I'm not playing him on DK. There's no chance in God's green earth that that's going to happen. But is he effective enough going up against this Cubs team that is garnering a little bit of attention? It's a pretty hefty 4.7 implied run total.
Yeah, I actually was so uninterested in him that I forgot to change out Dylan Peters, the, the opener. So
The starter, the longer reliever in this spot will be Bryce. It looks like
Wilson, right? Makes sense.
Yep.
I no interest for me on the FanDuel slate. You're not going to get the quality start bonus out of it, and I just think it's not really something I want to chase there. And I don't think this is a good Cubs lineup, but I do think there are some capable hitters that you can maybe take a look at in for their prices, for their general lack of popularity. They're not totally unowned, but they're fairly unpopular for their prices. Like say a Suzuki at 4,000 on DK, under 10% owned. I compare him with Ian Happ, who's also very low owned, and Wilson Contreras for a little 3-man on DK. I don't mind doing that. Maybe throw Patrick Wisdom and a Frank Schwindel in there. I don't mind doing that. They're all low owned, they're all affordable, and they're going up against a nothing pitching staff.
Yeah, I'm with you. I gotta have some Cubs. You kind of broke down the main ones there. From the Pittsburgh side, though, if I do want to face up against Wade Miley, which I think I do want to have a little bit of exposure, considering Wade Miley on DK price point, he's going to get attention for these Coors slappies that want to be going that direction. I get it. I understand why he's got some utility, but I'm going to probably have some Pittsburgh on the other side of it. I generally would like to have more. I'd like him going up against, or this entire lineup, I like going up against righties more. But Brian Hayes, I still look at all the advanced metrics. He's going to be good long term. He'll start hitting homers here eventually. I believe, maybe not. Chavez, your boy, is going to be in that lineup today. I got to have some interest in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it makes some sense, and I think it's definitely worth attacking the Miley ownership on the DK slate. If you are a lunatic and rostering him on FanDuel, I think it definitely makes some sense to draw out some hedge stacks on the other side of that one because it's probably not going to work. And you mentioned, a lot of people probably taking that dive with the $4,400 Miley play and then combining that with Coors Field stacks. I think that's probably the first thing I would avoid doing if I were rostering Miley on that slate. Like take his value and then just put it together with different expensive stacks. And you're immediately pivoting away from a lot of what the field is doing if you are making that Miley play. But much more enthusiastically going to the Cubs bats. And you named my two guys up at the top there. I'll throw Brian Reynolds into that mix. Certainly switch hitter, struggling this year, but had a nice bounce back season last year, 302, 395, 22 with 24 home runs. That's more the hitter that Brian Reynolds is. So any given slate, he could certainly come around. Yoshi Tsutsugo, plenty of power in the 4-hole. Diego Castillo had a nice spring, but hasn't really shown out in the regular season here. Back end of the lineup, I know Gunn called out Jack Sawinski the other day. Lefty. I'm not sure whether he'll be in there. If he's in the lineup, maybe you get a bullpen shot out of him with a little bit of pop.
F it, Eric. I'm doing it. Yeah, go ahead. Roster Miley. Enjoy it. See how that goes. I'm sure it'll probably go well now. Atlanta Braves, 3.6 implied runs at Milwaukee Brewers, 3.9. Ian Anderson, Freddie Peralta. Ian Anderson, starting on that side of it, I think if we're trying to get into this mid-range, and I said, I'm going to have a lot of these like 7K, 8K type guys. They just kind of seem to be guys that fit into my lineups a little bit more. Ian Anderson's up to 9,600. He's got an 8.6% top two pitcher percentage going up against Milwaukee, and Milwaukee always garners attention in that ballpark. It's starting to warm up elsewhere, so it's not just like the indoor friendly hitting environment compared to the rest of the slate, but it's still a decent enough hitting spot. I have some Ian Anderson interest. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you are. I think he's a very talented pitcher. What I'm a little concerned with is the 17.1% strikeout rate, down from 23.2 last year. He needs to be that 23.2% guy to really be an effective DFS play for us. It looked like I pulled him up on StatCast this morning. It looked like he was dropped about 2 miles an hour off the fastball, which closes up the gap between his fastball and his changeup. I think it's just a matter of not having that extra couple miles an hour of velo makes the stuff work a little bit differently. So hopefully he finds it. I don't know if he's going to go out and find it tonight. He's also walking 12.4% over his first 30 innings here, 4.55 xFIP, a 1.40 whip. The swinging strikes are still there, which is definitely good. 13.3% swinging strikes, only 4.4% barrels inside of the 42.9% hard hit that he's given up. So there's some encouraging signs. I think we can definitely take some shares out. What I love at 7,900, way cheaper on the FanDuel slate, he's only 1.2% owned. So that's something I'm definitely interested in. I think this is a very capable pitcher going up against what I think is a fairly good lineup, particularly if Christian Yelich continues improving. We know that Rowdy's got some power. Hunter Renfro's got some power. I'll probably draw a few Brewer shares on the other side of it too, but I really like Ian Anderson for the price and the ownership on FanDuel. And you got to love the ownership on DK if you're just paying up to be different with him. So I will take some shots with Ian Anderson here.
Yeah, I was surprised with the plus 122 as well. That's what it said on the online. So I will say that was surprising because Freddie Peralta's on the mound on the other side. And you want to talk about your chalk of all chalk on FanDuel.com. Here he is, Freddie Peralta on DK, even 10-5, 34.6% ownership going up against this Atlanta team that, yeah, it can definitely be potent. They have some strikeouts, in Duvall, Swanson, those type guys, Austin Riley, Travis d'Arnaud in the lineup, I'm assuming at the catcher spot, but Albies, Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, it's still going to be difficult for me to imagine. I want to go nuts, like to have like 45-50% Freddie Peralta, like I've had with the Corbin Burns of the world, where I just jam a lot of these Milwaukee pitchers. I think Freddie Peralta, the main thing that I'm noticing that's a little bit different is this hard hit percentage is just drastically different than what he's had for the career. 47.2% hard hit percentage right now. He's a career 35.8% guy. So he's starting to get banged up a little bit, primarily just a straight up fastball pitcher. That is what he does. It's started to go. He's throwing at a 56% clip again this season. The slider, changeup, everything's an ancillary pitch to the fastball. I don't know. I'm having a tough time figuring out exactly what I want to do with Freddie Peralta. What is your game plan today, Terry?
If I was on DK at 10-5, 36 and change percent ownership, it's probably gone up since I put this ownership in this morning. I think I'd be looking to undercut against this lethal Braves lineup. On FanDuel, 97 is a fair price. The ownership, I think, is probably about right on FanDuel. I know he's technically negatively leveraged on our slate. Taking a look at the top pitchers, the way that we're doing things now with the 75% of the probability of being the top starter, and then the value number being 25% representative in there, he's a negative 7.7 leverage play. But if you look down the board, Luis Severino, negative 27.9. Noah Syndergaard, I don't think has the same upside as Freddie Peralta necessarily does. He's a positive leverage play for 200 more. And then you're getting into a lot of pitchers that I don't necessarily like. You're getting low-owned Ian Anderson, who I'll have shares of. There's not a lot of places to dump that ownership. So I think at around 18% owned, I think that's appropriate. So I'll be at or about the field probably on Freddie. I typically don't push much beyond like the 20% range on a lot of pitchers when there's a lot of guys who are equal, but I don't know that that's this slate. So even if I end up over the field on Freddie a little bit, I wouldn't be totally shocked. The more Freddie that I roster, the more Braves are coming along for the ride in other lineups, because I definitely want to get that hedged, because I really, really believe in this Braves lineup. A 183 team ISO, a 108 WRC plus, a 3.84% home run rate against righties this year. They're all really low owned. They strike out plenty, 25.3%. So there's upside on both sides of this one. Gun to my head, if you said you can only have one share of one side of this in one lineup and that's all you get, I think I'm taking the Braves bats instead of Freddie.
Ooh, look at you go. I thought I was going to be a little bit on an island right now in the top stacks tool, Atlanta, looking at Freddie Peralta. I just said it's hard contact that he's never really given up. He only throws fastballs. He's not going to continue to get the swings and misses as he progresses as his career. He's 25. It's still there, but I mean, the fastball movement is what he's relying on, and that's just kind of a dangerous game if it's not going to have the velo behind it. So I feel like these Atlanta hitters, I do want to play a little bit more than the field, quite a bit more than the field if they're going to be 2% owned or 1% owned. So I'll probably play like 5-6% in my allotment. So I'm with you. This is a 150 type play, but stacking up against the most popular pitcher on the slate, generally a decent idea long-term.
And especially when you can do it with an elite lineup. Like this is the lineup I stack against anybody in any situation, basically. And when they're all, when I can have Ronald Acuna at 2.3% on FanDuel for 4,300, I'll do that all day. I don't care who the pitcher is. When I can have Matt Olson combined with him at under 1%, Austin Riley, Ozzy Albies, Marcell Ozuna, all these hitters under 1% for affordable prices. against the popularity, against a pitcher who like you said, 47.2% hard hit so far this season, 11.4 degree average launch angle. So the ball's in the air a little bit. The barrels are 4.2%. He's kept that reasonable. That's why his home run total is not ridiculous, but I think he is targetable here. I think there's sneaky bats in that Braves lineup at the end of it with Travis Demeritte and Dansby Swanson down there. 1 through 9, I can play this Braves lineup, and I will have well over the field on them.
Yeah. And the Milwaukee side, I think it's all right to get some of them against Anderson, but I believe in Anderson as a real life pitcher a little bit more than most, I would say. So I'm probably going to be shying away. Milwaukee always seems to get a lot of attention. What's up?
They're so expensive on the DK slate. Top 6 hitters are all over 5,000.
Tellez is just ridiculous. I mean, he's up there at 5,500 now. Yelich, I like, but he's 5,800. You have to compare him to Judge, Buxton, Ohtani.
Right.
Everybody in that regard. Trout, obviously, we'll talk about that game next. I'm just not enthusiastic to play a ton of Milwaukee bats here.
No, neither am I. Not at those DK prices. On FanDuel, I think you can definitely do it because the most expensive bat is Yelich at 38 and everybody else is in the low 3s. Totally different game on FanDuel today. So I do like them 1 through 6 there. I'll have some. But I don't really love the idea of attacking Ian Anderson. Like I said, very capable pitcher, generally tends to keep the hard contact down. It's been a little bit high this year, but the barrels have been fine. So I don't love throwing too many bats at him. They're not getting the popularity that I would expect on FanDuel. I think that might go up through the afternoon. So that's something I'll keep an eye on, but I just don't want to pay those prices for those bats on DK. I think it makes it prohibitively expensive, very difficult to get to good pitching, good second stack if you're doing it. So I don't love it on the DK slate. I wrote about them yesterday. I thought they were great yesterday, but it's difficult that with, that much salary weight on it.
Yeah. Well, what's not difficult, Terry, is heading over to PrizePicks right now. Using promo code Awesemo, getting $100 first match deposit bonus just by signing up at their site. There's no sharks, no optimizers, nothing like that. It is a prop-based site. You pick overs, you pick unders, you move on with your day. It's fantastic to play because you get cross-sport parlays. It's not just for MLB, but you have NBA. We have content to help you out with that. We have so many great things. And not only that, you get all of it behind the paywall. 1 month of Awesemo Plus Platinum free just by signing up using that promo code Awesemo for that $100 first match deposit bonus. You get everything we have behind the paywall, not just for MLB, but NBA, NASCAR, F1, USFL, esports. If there is a sport with DFS contests, we have content for it here at Awesemo. Take advantage of it. NHL Streets. Do you believe in Alexander Barkov there? Shots on goal. Do you think he's going to be going over on something like that? Put that together with a no runs first inning type parlay back and forth. I will say, as much as I do love getting to some Atlanta bats, I think the under of 0.5 first run innings here for Atlanta and Milwaukee seems like it makes sense. 7.5 total, 2 pretty decent pitchers on the mound there. I think that works out better than not. So take advantage of that. Put that into play over at PrizePicks. Sign up using that promo code Awesemo and get all of the things we have behind the paywall free for that month, plus $100 into your account. What could be better than do you like my sweater? Sign up, take advantage of that. Thank you so much to PrizePicks for their sponsorship of the MLB Strategy Show and so many other shows here at Awesemo. All right, my friend, 5 games. The Los Angeles Angels going up against the Texas Rangers. John Gray, Noah Syndergaard. If this was 5 years ago, this would have a 6 implied run total for these two pitchers facing each other. Alas, it does not. 7.5 here in this spot in Texas. We know it's going to be hot. We know that this is going to be something we have to account for. 92 degrees out there. I really don't know how much I want to get to either of these pitchers. Do you have a lean on which one you would want to roster more than the other?
Probably Syndergaard, just because of the ownership and the pricing on the DK slate, where he's 8,500 and Johnny Gray's 9,400, and he's drawn 6.5 to 7.9. On the FanDuel slate, he's much more highly priced at 9,900, but he's got 0.5% ownership projected. So I think he's my answer on FanDuel as well, despite the price situation being completely flipped. John Gray, 6,400 on FanDuel, drawing 12.8%. I think that's, if I was expecting him to be a lot lower owned than that, and I was like, ooh, that could be maybe a little sneaky interesting at 6,400, kind of a capable pitcher, 24.4% strikeouts last year, 22.1 this year. I think we're all expecting a little bit more from him, not pitching in Coors anymore. Hasn't really shown it very much overall so far this year, but has only pitched 16 1/3, dealt with, I don't remember if it was injury or COVID or whatever, but has not pitched the full amount of starts yet. but this Angels lineup has just been lethal, and he's getting a ton of ownership there. So I don't love the John Gray situation on either site because of price on DK and because of popularity on FanDuel. Syndergaard, the strikeouts are not where they once were in the mid 20s to high 20s, 17.5%. But that said, he's pitching fairly clean. 3.97 xFIP, a 1.06 whip, 12% swinging strike rate is still there, 36.3% hard hit, going up against a Rangers lineup that has not been overly impressive so far this season. Texas against right-handed pitching, 26 with a 121 ISO. Creating runs 16% worse than average is 26 in baseball, 22% strikeout rate, right in the middle of the league. I think it's a decent spot for Syndergaard. I don't want to get carried away with it at price because I don't know how big the ceiling is, but I think with nobody else going to it, it's worth, a handful of shares at least.
Yeah. And again, I don't really have any pull on either of them. They both seem like they've got some positive leverage to be rostering. So maybe going that direction, but when it comes to Texas and this situation, I don't know how you don't have a ton of Angels interest. You were talking about it earlier. If I'm going to roster Wade Miley or get super weird in that kind of a regard in my SP2 on DK, I'm going to go up for Angels bats before I go to San Francisco. Give me Ohtani, give me Mike Trout, and hey, how about the MLB leader in WRC plus, Taylor Ward, 385 batting average, 8 homers, 1.126 OPS. What's going on here?
Ridiculous. And started the season on everybody's waiver wire in season long. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Best player in baseball so far this season.
385, 500 on base percentage. Getting on base half the time in 112 plate appearances. Half the time. 747 slugging.
Wow.
363 ISO. These are ridiculous numbers. These are absolutely Ruthian numbers. Babe Ruth never did that. Let's put it that way. Not for a sustained, maybe over 112 plate appearances he did.
Right.
Ward, Trout, Ohtani, Rendon, Jared Walsh, Brandon Marsh. I can take that lineup 1 through 6. They were the first team I started building with when I was hand building for this slate last night, just putting in placeholders. Absolutely fire away. And I do think you're right. If you're going to a team that's not Coors Field, when you make those discount plays for the popular plays, build with these guys, build with like Yankees, Toronto, build with the other elite teams that are in good spots that are not getting the popularity of the Coors slate, and you're immediately different.
Yep. Going to be so interesting to see what happens with this Coors game. Excited to break that one down here in a second. Going to be good times. But I'm looking at this Angels team as one I want to get to a lot. Texas, I'm not entirely sleeping on going up against Syndergaard. Obviously, Syndergaard has been decent enough in the early going of this season, but I'm not blown away by everything that he's doing right now. 2.46 ERA, 1.06 whip. That looks all well and good, but it's a hot situation here in Texas. It's not something that's overly, I don't want to go nuts by any means, but at least Seager from the left side, Brad Miller from the left side. Simeon's going to hit eventually, I think, ? But I feel like Texas, there's enough that I can get to here. There's no way that they're going to be popular in any kind of a regard. So I have a little bit of Texas interest. To you?
Probably not.
Okay.
Just because of, well, I'm really looking for I'm looking for power. I'm looking for home runs. And those are things that Syndergaard's relatively good at limiting. He's very good at limiting home runs. For his career, he's got I just had it in front of me, 2.15% home run rate. So far this year, a 1.6% home run rate. He's given up 2 home runs this year to 120 hitters. He's a good pitcher at limiting the offensive upside. So even if he doesn't have a monster DFS start, I don't expect the Rangers to come out here and hang 12 on him. I don't think we're looking at that kind of a situation. So maybe they come out, put 4 or 5 on him with some base hits, some doubles, but I don't really see the big home run upside here. If you want to take some shares out of the right guys, the Brad Miller, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia, Cole Calhoun part of the lineup, I don't have real issues with it. I'd probably look to 3-man it maybe instead of 5-manning it. Maybe that's the approach there, but it's definitely not one of my target stacks. All
right. Well, we move along. White Sox, Kansas City here. I see the lines up on the board now, -120, Kansas City 9 total there, that we got pulled there. Michael Awesemo doing a great job. It was his birthday yesterday. Hit the like button for him, if for nothing else there. Appreciate him. But he pulled that line down. I knew the White Sox were going to be popular. I didn't know they were going to be this popular. But we'll start. Bennett Sousa, Kaiser Sose. We don't need to roster him. He's a bullpen guy. So 4K, don't click on that name. Brad Keller, though, 15.5% K percentage, 3.35 expected ERA, 0.98 whip. Is Brad Keller improving? What's going on?
I mean, this is kind of what he was doing a couple of years ago, where he was pitching clean, effectively, generally keeping the ball down, but not like getting any strikeouts really. I tried to force him in a couple of years ago when he was like super cheap and doing well and all of that. And it just never really works out for DFS because he doesn't really strike anybody out. 15.5% strikeout rate, 10% swinging strike is fine, but only a 23.8% CSW with that 10% swinging strike rate. So I don't love Keller. At 7,200, like if he was in that 5,000 tier, I think you can maybe throw some shots at it. But at 7,200 on DK, I don't think we really need it. 9,200 on FanDuel, I think they were drunk when they were making these prices. I really don't get where they're coming up with that one. So definitely no shares of him on the FanDuel slate whatsoever, not against this White Sox line.
Yeah, there's a reason he rhymes with Old Yeller. He needs to be put down. That's not nice.
Mine a barn and shoot him, as Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank says.
Oh, it's bad.
Not to spoil the end of Old Yeller for anybody.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't end well. Let's go to the White Sox bats here because I think they're the ones that we want to be talking about. Pretty incredible top stack percentage there, 13% positive leverage. If the slate started this second, they would be my highest owned stack. It wouldn't be remotely close. The slate doesn't start right now. We're gonna see what happens because again, old Yeller over there, Mr. Brad Keller. It's not going to end well, more than likely. He's been effective. I think that stops today, and I just have a ton of White Sox interest. What are you going to do, Terry?
Yeah, I'll definitely be there with the White Sox. Everybody except Joan Moncada under 10% on the FanDuel slate makes not that much sense in this matchup. So I think they should be more popular for the prices that they're at. Moncada, 3,000 is way too cheap. Jose Abreu, 3,000, way too cheap. Yasmani Grandal, 2,300, extremely affordable in that lineup. Yeah, this lineup plays basically at least 1 through 8. Lurie Garcia, you can take or leave. He's frisky from time to time. He only costs 2,100, multi-position eligible on both sides, 3,000 on DK. Yeah, I would 1 through 9 this lineup against this pitcher. I really have no issues putting it together any way that you want. The top end is a little bit more popular on the DK slate, but perfectly usable and not overweight really. And the hitters that you really want in the middle are not that popular. Everybody in single digits.
And Kansas City, you can always roster some of these guys. I mean, it's a bullpen game. White Sox generally decent enough bullpen. I don't really want to go picking on him. It's 80
also
degrees.
Have Johnny Cueto as the follower?
Oh God, I don't have him as the follower.
That's what I had. It came down with the stuff from Graphs, so I was just going with it.
Got it. I didn't see that. It wasn't on DK. I didn't see it on Twitter. I looked.
Does that change your opinion about using some Royals to maybe target Johnny Cueto here?
Yeah, I would do that. I would have some. I mean, here's the thing: is I want to get some lefties in there more so, but there aren't any really lefties to target other than Andrew Benintendi.
Fair point. Yeah. Well, we have
Ryan O'Hearn.
Yeah, O'Hearn's a lefty. He's
Carlos Santana's been
Santana
real
was the guy I was gonna. Yeah,
Santana 143. 143 average. Can I interest you in a free Carlos Santana? No, you could not.
With his .086 ISO?
Nope.
Yeah, 19 home runs, a 127 ISO for Santana last year. Somewhere in here, he had many home runs a couple seasons, a few seasons back for the former Indians, the current Guardians. But yeah, it's been tough hoeing for Carlos Santana lately. It would basically be a matter of if it is Cueto that we're getting in that spot. You know, maybe keep an eye if that gets officially announced. I'm just pulling up the site that I got that from. Yeah. He's still listed. So assuming that it is, I think that gives us some reason to go to some Royals bats here, but they're kind of popular. Like Salvi pulling 11.5% on DK, 10.4% even on FanDuel. The top end pushing up toward 10%. That's probably about appropriate ownership. So maybe I'm around the field taking my shots where I can, but not really pushing the issue with Royals bats here.
All right, 3 games to go. Smash the like button. 10 minutes to go here in the show. If I get out of here before 15, I'll be in good shape. Won't have to pay that $20 fee. I know why they do it.
Was that an unintentional Jim pun?
It was it. Oh, I see what happens. San Francisco Giants, Colorado Rockies, Coors Field slate. Welcome everybody. It's an 11 gamer. There's a lot of other pieces of offense to go to, but the Giants, 6.3 implied runs against Antonio Senzatella. I don't think we need to even talk about Senzatella, but we need to talk about Giants. They have the highest top stack odds. You would expect that. They are facing a righty. That is just the nuts for this team because you just have all these lefties. Lamont Wade back into the fray. Mike Yastrzemski back to being healthy. Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford. Oh Lordy, what do you plan to do with San Francisco today?
Hope that this game gets like snowed out by a freak blizzard in Denver. And I just don't have to worry about it. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yep. Would be.
Quarter of the field on both sites is on this team. From top to bottom too. You can get to Luis Gonzalez at the bottom of the lineup, Joey Bart at the bottom of the lineup in the mid-teens on DK, both in the single digits on FanDuel. Maybe those are targets. They're just so difficult to roster. I think it's a great spot. I think, you know, anytime you put this team up against a righty in any ballpark, it's a good spot, let alone in Coors Field. Even if they're not hitting home runs, I love the doubles in this lineup. I really like this spot. I just don't know how the hell I'm going to roster a 37% owned Brandon Belt, a 30% owned Jock Peterson. I mean, they're so popular. Undercut roster, but undercut. You know, look to get different with secondary stacks, look to get different with pitching. The other side is maybe potentially interesting going against Alex Wood at much thinner ownership, which happens a lot with this Rockies team. Also a fairly good platoon matchup with a lefty going up against a lot of good righties. So maybe I'm a little bit more interested if I'm going to Coors and Rockies bats.
I'm with you. I think Coors side, I might be going to some more Rockies. If you're playing cash, you're playing five San Francisco Giants on DK. You're playing Belt at 4,500. You're playing Crawford at 4,300. You're playing Wade at 3,400. You're playing Yastrzemski at 3,600. You're playing Jock at 4,200. You're welcome. Just play the lefties. Anything else that sticks out? Well, Jock could get pitch hit for it, but I don't care. He's 4,200.
Yeah, Luis Gonzalez is only 2,600 if you need a discount in the cash lineup.
Maybe you go to him instead because he won't get pitch hit for. Darren Ruff won't be in the lineup. Jock Peterson's been getting pitch hit for in the middle of it. It's kind of just whenever it shows up. So I doubt, though, defensively they're going to take Luis Gonzalez out of left or that they're going to take Wade Jr. out. So maybe that is kind of the sharp cash move, is just going down to Gonzalez there at the bottom. So good talking through that. Colorado side, that is the one that I would want to get to here. Alex Wood is a good pitcher. He's a good real life pitcher, 23.4% K percentage. This season, higher whip, higher expected ERA than normal. But Ken, this is Coors Field. You get some of these righties, the likes of CJ Cron. That seems appealing. What sticks out to you from Colorado?
I tell you what, the first thing I noticed when I was looking at the top part of my page here, which has the Giants and their whole lineup, and then Alex Wood listed here, was, wow, Alex Wood's only 7,400 and not getting any ownership. Oh, wait, this is in Coors Field. That's what it did.
There we go.
I would love that opportunity in any other ballpark. I went to Coors Field with German Marquez the other day and pulled it off. I don't know that I'm going to be going to Alex Wood here just because of that, you know, the elite righty power in this lineup. I really like CJ Cron as a home run hitter from the right side of the plate. I think Connor Joe is a capable righty bat. I think Jonathan Daza is a capable righty bat. Brendan Rodgers, who I know you hate, and then he came out and had that monster game the other day. That same day you said that. Yeah, I had to bring that up. I think that's an interesting spot here. So I'll be going to Rockies. They're all under-owned, under 10% on DK. A lot of very low ownership marks around the lefties. So if you get a Ryan McMahon in the lineup, lefty, I really like that spot for 4,500, only 3% owned, but they're all low owned on the DK slate. They're all fairly low owned on FanDuel. Cron pulling 16% ownership, Connor Joe pulling 11.9. I'm not going to skip them for that reason because everybody else is in the low to mid single digits. So if I'm going to Coors Field, it's going to be primarily around the Rockies bats. I might get a little wacky and throw an Alex Wood one off in there.
I don't mind positive leverage, 7% top two pitcher percentage on DK. Yeah. I'll have a little bit at 9,200, but not when I say a little bit, I mean, I'm going to have like 3 of 150, maybe. Yeah. Like it's not going to be anything prominent. If you weren't 9,200, that would be really great. But
yeah, like if you were at that FanDuel price on the DK slate, now you're talking about something interesting and valuable. I don't love it on the FanDuel slate, but I mean, we're talking about a guy, you know, you mentioned really good real life pitcher. I think 26% strikeout rate last year over 138 and 2/3. That's a capable DFS pitcher, especially at the 7,400 price going up against this Rockies lineup. Like there are good reasons to think about that at least. I just don't know that we're going to get away with it. It's not coming through as much in my projections. I don't like the spot nearly as much as I did for German Marquez the other day, or even like Austin Gomber yesterday, which I wasn't going to.
All right. Well, this should be pretty quick because I see pretty negative leverage on the likes of Chris Archer on the mound going up against Oakland here. My Minnesota Twins, 3.9 implied runs for the Twins. It's a pretty big number in Oakland. That's kind of like an Angels-esque type number. And it's against a good pitcher, I think. This young Zach Logue character. Yes, L-O-G, Logue is what I was told is how you say his last name. I will believe whoever told me that. Was that you who told me that?
It was me that told you that.
Oh, cool. Well, then now I learned. See, I proved that I listened. That's cool. But Zach Logue gaining a lot of attention on DK. Chris Archer gaining a lot of attention. Do you think it's warranted?
Not sure how much I'd go to Logue. 7,800 is probably about the right price for right now. 22% strikeout rate over his first 13 and a third in the show, 4.12 xFIP. He's given up some premium contact though, and this is a pretty good premium contact lineup on the other side, particularly guys like Byron Buxton. Certainly Gary Sanchez from the right side of the plate can hit a home run against anybody. Jose Miranda, Royce Lewis are interesting toward the back of the lineup. I might prefer to take some shots with some lower owned twins who are fairly affordable outside of Buxton in his 6,000. It's if he was lower owned, Zach Logue, I'd be more interested. I think the ownership's probably a little bit high there for at least for what we know about this kid so far. On the other side, I don't think Archer is worth very much in a vacuum, but going up against this atrocious Athletics lineup for only 6,800 on the FanDuel slate, under 7% owned, 7,400 on DK, 15% owned. I like the FanDuel spot better. I don't know that I'm going to do it because I just don't trust the pitcher. 22% strikeout rate, also walking 12%, 4.57 xFIP, 1.48 whip, 10.7% swinging strikes, plenty of hard contact yielded. It's probably a better spot if you want to grab some weirdo athletic stacks than it is to go to Chris Archer here. But maybe since he's not like over 10% owned on FanDuel at that low price against this awful lineup, maybe you can get away with it. That might be a good value spot. If I'm going to shares of Wade Miley for value, I might as well take Chris Archer shots going up against a team that's 24% worse than average creating runs, dead last in the league against righties, 23.2% strikeout rate, no power to speak of. It's possible. I don't love it. You're threading a thin needle there. I don't believe in Chris Archer, but maybe you can take some shots.
Yeah, Oakland 1% top stack potential. That's not good, is what I've been. Okay, that seems bad. So we will skip them. Arizona Diamondbacks, we will not skip, going up against the Dodgers, mainly because I want to roster some Dodgers against Madison Bumgarner, formerly San Francisco Giant, now Arizona Diamondbacks. He's only regressed since the height of his powers going up against in those NL West showdowns. Continues to be in the NL West. I bet he wasn't there. Or I bet he wishes he wasn't there because it hasn't been good. But he's been more effective this season. I can't imagine that I roster any shares of him going up against this Dodgers offense. Do you?
Oh, I love me some Mad Bum. You know, I still believe in this guy. 6,400 on DK, 0.5% ownership. That's my value pitcher, man. Come on.
Oh my God.
Believe the power of belief. We got to will this into existence.
He's such a bad person. I can't roster him on principle.
ERA. He's got a sub 2 ERA. We love ERA around here. He's got a 4.85 xFIP. It's not very real. 16.1% strikeout rate, walking 9.7%, only a 7.3% swinging strike rate. Yeesh. Mad Bum is getting by on a lot of guile. The stuff isn't really there anymore. I do think that he's better than what the strikeout rate has been. I do think he's better than what the xFIP has been. He's certainly not as good as the ERA has been. But what's interesting here and what stood out to me is that the Dodgers have not been very good against lefties this year.
No.
5% worse than average creating runs. 22.2% strikeout rate is 16th in baseball. That WRC plus is 22nd. Their home run rate is 2.04. That's 20th. 130 ISO is 21st. Could you get a sneaky quality start here from Mad Bum, who's just going to pitch 6 innings, 7 innings, pitch through cleanly, maybe find you 4 or 5 strikeouts, maybe get through this game without giving up too many runs for 6,400 and nobody on him?
Terry, 2 words: positive regression. The Dodgers are due for positive regression.
Sure, I agree. They're in a lineup from top to bottom. I would take some shots. Some very low expectation shots. If I'm taking shots with Wade Miley, for God's sake, I'm going to take some shots with Madison Bumgarner. It's another one. Yeah. Again, I don't expect it to work out, but you don't need it to work out very many times at all at that price and nobody else there, particularly if some of those other really weak value pitchers that we looked at go pop. Even if you get just an okay start from Bumgarner for 6,400 and nobody there, you're gaining ground on the field if all those other value pitchers don't come through. So it's the thinnest needle on the slate, but I am going to probably try and put some thread through it.
You are a brave man. Tony Gonsolin's been really, really good this season. He's always been good. That's never been in question. It's always been a pitch count issue. Up to 84 last time out, but a 10-2 on DK. With a lower K rate than what you would hope at that kind of a number, it's tough to really land there in any kind of a quantity. Playing him feels like you're hoping Freddie Peralta fails. You're hoping everybody else in his range fails. And he just gets you that 20, 25 that he's capable of. How do you feel about Tony Gonsolin against this awful, and I do mean awful, Arizona offense?
Yeah, I like the pitcher, but I just hate that price. Like you said, I
Yeah.
just don't think his strikeouts are going to be there at that 10,200 level. 8,700 is probably the right price where FanDuel's got him. I might take a few shots. It looks like he's getting like 1% ownership. So I think getting around or over the field is easy enough if you want to go there. Arizona this year, 24.3% strikeout rate against righties is 27th in baseball. Certainly some good reason to go there, but they've been a little bit frisky in that split in terms of their offense, in terms of their power. So maybe you take a few shares, even it out. If you're taking shares of Gonsolin, take shares of the Diamondbacks as well. But I don't love that lineup. Like I believe in his side more. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. Even 8,700, I'm actually having a little bit of trouble justifying that with some of the other spots I want to go. I think more the 8,000 range. Like I certainly can't justify going to Gonsolin over Luis Severino, even with all the popularity on Severino, right? For that $600 difference.
Yeah, it's so weird because I think he's a better DraftKings play than FanDuel play, even though there's a $1,500 difference between the sites. DraftKings 10-2. FanDuel 8,700. I think on DK, he will be very, very low owned. There's positive leverage. I think the most positively leveraged pitcher on the slate in our top pitchers tool, I will have not a ton, but I'll have 10%ish or, 5-10%ish of Tony Gonsolin, no doubt about it.
And it wouldn't shock me to see him come out and pile up some strikeouts against his team. He's a capable strikeout pitcher in the past. He just hasn't done it really to any extent this year, but over 55 and 2/3, 13 of them starts last year, 27.2% strikeout rate.
And I'm going to roster Dodgers. I will have some. They're negatively leveraged. Yeah, I mean, we're going to play all of them. Don't forget about Freddie Freeman, Cody Bellinger. If they're in the lineup, even against a lefty, I don't care.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to take those guys against either hand or any third hand you could probably come up with. So yeah, 1 through 9 with this lineup, no issues whatsoever going up against Mr. Bumgarner, particularly if I'm going to be taking some shares of Mad Bum on the other side. This is my least out of the picks I have given, which were over the last couple of days for these value pitchers, which were Hunter Green yesterday, Herman Marquez at Coors the day before that. This is the spot I'm by far the least confident in, just to put this in perspective. So I
love it. Love it. Well, we got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I got to fly, but you guys are so loved. This was a blast. Smash that like button as we get out of here. Thank you to Mike Awesemo behind the scenes there, doing a great job producing. Thank you so much to my guy, Terry. Any final words for the people?
No, you got to go lift. I can't take any more time.
Yeah, it's all right. We got Greg and Adam coming up 5:45, MLB Deeper Dive, and MLB Live Before Lock. I'll be on with Neil. We'll see you guys later in the day. We'll see you.